Good morning and welcome to Ouija no Kiwug, working together the Voices of Change threads for our future. I am Heather McIntyre, the program coordinator and facilitator, and I have a very special guest here with us today. As you know, the Ouija no Kiwug program is a program that empowers mainstream organizations to build and grow cultural safety practices for Indigenous peoples. And these conversations that we have here inside of this 8-part series speaks to that. It speaks to the people that are making change, and it speaks to the voices that can share all of the little baby steps that we need to take to make that effort come to life and create that collaboration for us all to work together. So good morning, Kathy, and welcome to the program. For everyone out there, this is Kathy St. Amant, and she is the Red Road Program and Facilitator here at Mamaway Bannock. And good morning, Ani.
Yeah, good morning. Bonjour.
Good morning. Kathy, inside of the program, what we like to do this series, we really like to get to know you a little bit better. I've only been here a short time, but have been very blessed to experience quite a few different occasions where we've got to meet each other a little bit deeper every time and learn a little bit more about each other. And what I really honor and value about you is that you are a straight shooter, from what I can see and from what I have seen, and you hold so much knowledge and so much just tradition within you that you openly share to whomever is ready to listen. So I'd like to know, and I'd like for you to take the time to tell us who Kathy is. What's your why? How did you get here? And where are you going? So it's over to you.
Oh, okay. Well, back in 1994, I started working at the Georgia Bay Native Women's Association as the program coordinator for Brighter Futures. So with that, I've been doing that for a very long time, and through I think it was 2000, like 13 years ago. I don't know what the date of that was. There was something missing. Like I was in sobriety since 2006, July 18th, 2006. And I learned a lot about myself at that time, where I struggled with addictions, and from intergenerational trauma and family dynamics and family violence, and so my alcohol or drugs wasn't my problem; it was my solution. And I raised 4 boys, and I was married and into a relationship, and but 2006 was my change. They call it there's a word for it, like defining moment. So when I went to treatment, and I was actually with my sister. She helped me detox, and then I went to treatment. And that at that point there, I could not trust myself, so I gave everything over, turned my will over, and that's like everything: bank, cards, banking, everything. And I truly, at that point, truly had to live all over again, like a child. And I didn't feel like there was any like embarrassed or shame. Like I did all that while I was in treatment center. I felt all that. I dealt with that. But one day I went to work. It was 6 months after I had my sobriety. I a visitor came, a counselor, and her name was Janice from Wissahickon. And she showed me, she was my counselor, she was a therapist counselor, and she showed me something very, that another defining moment of my life. She showed me her bundle because she had this bag. And I might get emotional about sometimes talking about this. And it was so beautiful, this bag that she brought into my office, right? Because she came to my office to do a counseling session. And I was looking at it like, when you look at something that's really beautiful, you kept eyeing it, like, and she's seen that, and she goes, yes, I want to show you this. So she opened up her bundle, and she was telling me all the beautiful sacred items she had in her bundle and what it was for. And I could not imagine like what, like I was just totally confused. Like um, what, like, cause I didn't know anything about our tradition, anything about our ceremonies, our culture, I didn't grow up like that. My parents were First Nation, but they were day school survivors, and then their parents were residential. So I didn't, they were Christian, and they did have some native stuff hanging around the walls. That was our culture, stuff that was hanging on the walls. So when she was opening these things and showing me, like, the sema, the tobacco, the sweetgrass, some rocks, some beautiful colors of material. It's like, and her spirit got, it was just so much, right? It was just overwhelming that I was like almost like shocked, and she goes, you should come with me sometime to Wisconsin and just witness the ceremonies there in Bad River. They call it the Three Fires Medewan ceremonies. And I said, oh yeah, that'd be nice. I thought, okay, when could that be, and because I want it right now. And I want things right now, just like sobriety. I've seen everybody's happy faces. I want that sobriety right now, but I know there's work to do to get that right. I like taking leaps, and people say, no, you got to take baby steps, so and I get that now. I get that after so many moons. So that summer, we all went, a whole bunch of us, my sisters, my mom, and a few other people. We went and just being on the grounds in Wisconsin, Bad River, Wisconsin, at the Medewan ceremonies was just, there's no words to describe it. I felt like I was home. That was my home. And I felt the spirit work through me. Everything was, wearing beautiful ceremonial skirts and seeing the people working and just celebrating life, on that Minnow Benazwan. That's where I felt it right there, Minnow Benazwan, that good life, and just working for spirit, and spirit working for us, and just along outside the lodge, because this is outside, out along the lodge, there was a huge cliff, and over the huge cliff was Lake Superior. And it was beautiful, like beautiful. If you, on a clear day, you could almost see, Thunder Bay right across, way over Medellin Island, and that's where we all originated. And you could see the sparkle. It was beautiful. And we there, through ceremonies, I felt, through initiation, I felt my feet lifted off the ground. I felt my body lift up, and I was just in awe. I just remember that, capturing that moment, just like I didn't know what was happening, what is going on, but it was the love, the true love of our Medewan Lodge, and the people, and the ceremony, and the spirit, and praying for the water, and watching tobacco or sema going to the pipe and being lifted, and all those little things. And I had my four 4-year-old son, 4 or 5-year-old son with me. And he was busy, he was busy like any other child, around us. He was around us, and there was a bunch of bush, and like it was just a huge like campground, right? And while we were watching, participating in ceremonies, and when we came back, my mom asked him, like I said, oh, I wish he was part of this. I wish he could see and just sit still and, be acknowledge this, the colors, what people are doing, And when we got back home, my mom asked him to draw what he saw there. And it was this beautiful lodge, and in detail of the people in there with their bundle bags and the spirit animals that were there showing themselves, and people sitting outside the lodge with their bundle bags, and the little water boy drum sitting inside the lodge, and and the river behind there where he was playing, and the water fountain, and the wood pile, and even a little carriage over there where there's this baby that was crying and crying and crying, and you could see the little baby, like like he made this like there was so much detail. Well, his spirit was so busy playing all around, and he captured everything. There's details I cannot explain because it's sacred, so I can't describe those unless you got to go
Yes.
and go to ceremonies and see that. But I was very emotional when I seen this, and I just, again, no words to explain that. And I framed it, and we hanging on the wall, so it's framed in. Yeah. So after that, ceremonies, it was ceremony. I was doing a lot of they call it the sewing club. We would sew bundle bags and altar cloths, and the Medewan would get together, and we would do some feast and clan feast, and just go on like in our area, right? Went to ceremonies wherever there were, anywhere, because when there's a ceremony happening, I'm there. If there's a sweat lodge, I'm there, and naming ceremony, like all of that, right? So we what do you call it? When I was still doing my job, my mom at the Women's Association, my mom went to this AA conference in Toronto, and she handed me this CD, and she says, let's play this on our way to a language conference in Sault Ste. Marie. And it's a 6-hour ride, right? So and she just came back, and we were listening to it, and I heard this story, Don C. from, he's a Mohican from Colorado, and he was there as a keynote speaker, and he told his story. And when I heard his story, it was like, the first 160 pages of the big book changed his life, and he described some things about what I was going through, and I just like was driving, I just couldn't, like, I was just like, all these floods of tears would just cry, because I realized I was not alone, and I knew I wasn't alone. But this guy from Colorado, like, we're all the same, we're all the same. We're just seeking this good life, and following our tradition, our way of life that was given to us from our ancestors and who fought for it. So I got that there. I want to do this. How do I do this? I want to pass this down for those ones who are still suffering, who are still looking for that hope. And because I felt that hope, and I felt that belonging and that meaning and purpose. And I love those teachings, which Onamna say is going to share tomorrow.
I'm so excited.
The first one is hope. Yeah. And that's where I've heard them from the ceremonies, because I went 4 times a year for like 13, 14 years until COVID hit, you
Yeah.
know. And then I listened. There was something he said in his story, the white bison, the red road to well-variety. So I Googled that,
Yeah.
and there was a bunch of training and resources, and I wanted to go away for the training, but it was so much money, and so I called them up, and they said that I could use the resources and use it to our own territory, because I said I can't afford to go way up there and get training, right? And so I ordered a whole bunch of resources. And then I have a friend, Deborah Laramie, who was working with us at that time too with the Georgian Canadian Women's Association. And I said, you have to listen to a CD and look at all the stuff that that we should try and do together. So she listened to a CD, and of course she was floored by it and got emotional about it. And we met at her house on a Sunday afternoon, and we start developing, and we start brainstorming, and that's how it began. And we took it, and we used it in Midland area at the Women's Association in the evening, because we still had our own jobs, our daytime jobs, and then it was going. It was something was wrong. Something wasn't right. It wasn't capturing the people, because we were using their resources too, and there was a lot of Christianity into it. So that's when I asked Medwiyash, Hector Kapagog, to come and speak to us. And he said that, use our ways, use our language, use our teachings, because the spirit, and when he said this, when the spirit captured you at ceremonies, that's how how I put all of myself into that, and way I want to reach out to those ones, right? So that's exactly what I did. I worked hard with them, and medicine wheel isn't in our culture, eh? It's not in our teachers. It's teachings. It's a tool that we use. So and from the eastern and the southern and western direction and the northern direction, that's what we use that in our culture and our traditions, how to teach that, how to share the knowledge, and how to share the teachings in those four directions. So that's how we developed it. And then after we did the second round, everybody was connected. Everybody got connected. Their spirit connected with our way of life. So we changed the whole curriculum, and that's how we came today. And I think it was like maybe about 4 years later, there was people in the communities, because we went, we just did it in Midland, right, and Christian Island, and the people were going out spreading this word, right, and people were saying, some managers, some executive directors, saying like, what's this Red Road all about? And we didn't call it Red Road to Variety because we weren't trained from that organization, right? So we had to call it Red Road to Recovery in our own way, in our own ways of our land, right, of our teachings. And what happened was that I just derailed myself there for a second.
Okay.
So they said they want to access funding so that we could go take this to other communities, to other First Nations organizations around Simcoe County, Muskoka. So they brought in these people and from the funding Ministry of Funding agencies, and they spoke to us I had to sit on some panels with at the Aboriginal Health Circle through Lynn, you know, the local health network, and they were sitting. It's on Google, and I couldn't believe I was. Anyways, it's like, but I just shared why it works, how it works, you know, why Red Road works for our people. Um, and of course, one day, um, Brenda and Jermaine asked me, how many red roads can you do um, in a year? Like, so we do like 10 weeks, right?
Yeah.
So we could do one season, one per season, right?
Yeah.
So they got funding for 4 sessions a year, and plus materials and things like that. So we got funded for that, and that was on top of our job, right? Because we still have our day job, so we could do this on the weekend or in the evenings.
Yeah.
So we kept doing that. We kept going out, you know, going to as far as Moose Deer Point, Rama, Barrie, Christian Island, Midland, all over, any Native organizations. And then they said, okay, there's so many frontline workers out there. They're wondering what you're doing with the people that you're serving in these communities. How could they support you? Well, we could do a train the trainer. So we trained 25 frontline workers about maybe 8 years ago. And they took it to support their clientele, the people that they're working with, and did some facilitating the program, and it was success. Like, that's like, and like I had to sit back, and I'm going like, okay, this is really happening. It's like that ripple effect, you know.
Yeah.
And it's happening. And then one day, it got bigger. and this happened in the fall of 2019, that the Ministry of Health there was a proposal call for to extend the Red Road to Recovery program. So they wrote the proposal, Mumaway, and they received the funding for it. And I was so happy, you know. I knew it because I had different ministry people calling me, asking me more questions, and I had to say that I'm grateful for the Georgian Bay Native Women's Association, who took us on, let us put our feet in there and carried us through, right? And let us use their facility and their resources, and helped us through. Like, they carried us, and that's how some organizations do. They baby it, and when they're mature enough, they let it go, right? So and that's why Mumaway now has the Red Road to Recovery program, but we know it's still community driven. We know it's still community owned, because that's where it started from, and we'll never forget that. And they said, could one person do the facilitating? And I said, no, it needs two facilitators. It needs two facilitators. I had to argue that, you know, with the funding people.
Yep.
Well, not argue, be very, assertive.
Right.
Yeah. And yeah, so that's and the funny thing is that because of policies and procedures, I had to apply for it. So, apply for the position. So I thought that was funny, but because of policies and procedures, that was okay. And I was kind of nervous, to tell you the truth.
No doubt.
Nervous that I don't get it.
Right. And that, happens more times than we acknowledge probably, right? Because the truth and the reality is that you've moved me. So I'm moving a lot of things. Thank you for that. um, the truth and reality is that, as we reclaim, as we find our way back, as we find our way to everything that is inside of us that we have shut down, the spark and the flame just keeps growing, and that keeps getting bigger, and we keep moving, and we're so blessed to have associations, like you said, and organizations that hold that flame, that recognize that flame, and then they hold it and they help it grow and expand, right? But the reality is that we are inside of a Western lens, right? And so in that Western lens, and the way that our funding structure is set up, the way that, operations are set up, it's very linear, it's very structured, and there's so many pieces that we have to go to, even now being an Indigenous organization, that it's trying to put those two worlds together. And Mama Way has done that very, very well. And I'm sure other organizations have done that very, very well too, that I don't know of because I've not had that experience. But that speaks to part of the conversation that we have inside of the program, is that we have these two worlds, and forever we were told that our world was not the world that should be. And so we relearned this other world, but we relearned and put on these new eyes and these new coats in a shell of only half of the people that we were, because we weren't fully connected and in that place. And so, as I like to call it, the awakening, because that's what it was for me. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I didn't know what road I was on. I just surrendered to, I got to go where I'm being called to go. I have fought this inner calling for so long that it made me so sick. And I knew that I couldn't do that anymore. So I knew what the other side looked like. Why don't go this side? It's fearful at what as it was, right? And as you said, it's just uncovered, and it's like this magical road opens up, and you get to where you're going. And that feeling, a lot of my Western family will say, "Oh, Heather, you're just being emotional." I know now that I know exactly what that is, right? And I don't try to resist it. That is my spirit, that is my family, that is me, that is all of those things. And I won't hide behind that anymore. And that's something that this program allows and creates opportunity for people to be, right? Outside of everything I do here, I have a coaching business, and I work in community. And that is, before I used to take that, and don't get me wrong, I make reference to the Western lens, and I make reference to the Indigenous lens a lot. I do that because I see both through both of those lenses. I am half and half, and I am just trying to piece together the essence of who I am. But I learned so much from this side that is valuable. However, it was missing something for me, and that missing piece was that connection. So when I started to apply that in my practice, as opposed to just trying to go through, a checklist and what is the word? Triage, right? I want to triage where you're coming from. I'm going to show you a picture. Oh, well, you fit in this category. You fit in this box. But the reality was, no, I was out of my own box. And the moment I had somebody that showed up and shone that light and said, no, it's you. You matter. We need to start here so that you can start to grow that container, so that you can step into this world with all these different lenses and these different views, and authentically be you in your own strength. And I have not had the opportunity of witnessing, one of your full 10-week programs. I'm in right now doing the frontline program with you, just to watch and see. But even the beauty inside of that, I can't even imagine how it must be and how it must feel for you when you watch those individuals who are just like you and I were, that are just striving and reaching to be present, but are so lost in generational trauma or trauma they don't know, because they don't know, right? We don't know what we don't know
Yeah.
sometimes. And growing up in stories, because we all have stories, but our story is different because it's been so deeply connected with such deep trauma, right? And so many things removed, so that peeling, that, taking that back, and that understanding in the moment when you, like you described, walk in or hear a CD and you realize, oh my God, I'm home. This is what I've been hearing and could never put my finger on, and this is why. And oh my, how would I have known? Because all I knew is that, I can only speak to my story. All I knew is that I had family members that were very angry, and they showed that anger everywhere. I had family members that were lost inside of that pain, and they showed a different version of themselves inside of that pain. And so this is what I knew as my normal. I didn't know all of the pieces. So that's another part of the healing on my side, is that I realized they were doing what they could do because of what they knew. Um,
Mhm.
and I know differently. And so I can change that. And when people say forgiveness, right, it's not about forgiving. It's a different kind of forgiveness. It's a place where you can just say, okay, hey, listen, that was really shitty. And I don't like that. And I'm not going to be that. And I'm going to work really, really hard to not be that. And then be able to show up and shine, right? Because there's a lot of people in this world out there walking around that are not shining, and they don't have the supports. Had I not found one person that led me to three other people, I would not be here today, knowing that this whole other world
Mhm.
was open to learning, to teaching, to understanding. Because to me, it was a silence. That was, we just didn't do that. We didn't talk about that. You were removed from it. We didn't speak the language. We didn't speak any of those things. And, I'm starting to dive deeper now that I have, this understanding that I've been working on for so many years. But you dive deeper in it and more stuff comes up and you're like, where is this coming from? Right. But we're again, we're doing work for not only us, but for them, as we do this. And there's so much beauty in that.
Mhm.
And it's challenging. It's not an easy road, right? And
Yeah.
that's the other thing. And I also really love and value the fact that you will, when we started this morning, you were like, I am that girl that says, I see that, I want that, let's get there, right? And I want it now. But there's the beauty in the hard work. There's the beauty in the stripping down. There's the beauty in that, okay, I'm going to buckle up and I'm going to just ride the ride right now. Um, and that's so important, and such a beautifully powerful legacy that you're opening to so many people. And not only in your own life, but so many lives. Like, Kathy, how many people have you put through the program, do you think?
Oh, I don't know.
Right?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, look
Through
at all the
for
lights. Look at
Yeah.
all the light and all the sparkles that you've created. We also had the opportunity and the privilege to have one of your co-facilitators on here, Steve, which is coming up in one of the next ones, talking about his journey and his experience. And that's the other side of this, is that the two of you just have this ability to ebb and flow with each other that really opens up the
He
wanting.
calls it the dance. Yeah, he calls it the
Yeah,
dance.
it
Yeah.
is. It's a beautiful, beautiful dance the two of you do together. And actually the three of you, because I've watched the three of you, you know, and how you ebb and flow inside. And it is a beautiful, beautiful dance that you have. And it provides this opportunity for people to authentically show up. Because you and I both know when we are in that state of not feeling, not being present, and showing up in this way that, you know, is our safety coat that we're wearing, um we need people to mirror back to us that we're not bad, we're failures, we're not, you know, all of these things, because we're just not. It's just the experiences that have shaped us, right? And that is
Mhm.
another issue that happens in society, is that labeling, right? And
Mhm.
I'm sure something that you come across quite a lot inside of your practice with the individuals that are walking through your door. Now, are you primarily teaching and facilitating to Indigenous people, or are you facilitating to all peoples?
We're right now, like we were when before Mama Way took the program. We were facilitating through at Chickamick, which paid us separately. They paid, it didn't come from the Lynn dollars. And we were there. They wanted even to expand it 2 times a year, because their people, you know, the non-Indigenous people were asking about it too. And there we had about 25 to 30 people to facilitate to 25 to 30 people. And so right now, I guess we're in the envelope, in the Indigenous envelope. It's just for Indigenous people. Um, but if they had a Indigenous family, like kids or a spouse, then they're eligible too, right? So
Yeah.
there's something else I wanted to share, because it really important to know about our ceremonies, our way of life. So because I'm totally honored and blessed to have this too on my property. And um, when I was in treatment center in 2006, John Rice was he was the spiritual advisor at Waypoint at that time. So when I was in treatment center at in Penetang, he comes in the room because we had some an Indigenous elder coming in to talk to us, and he's going to be giving spirit names. And I went, oh, okay, I heard about this, right? And he comes walking in. It was so relieved, like I was so relieved to see another um a person like me, you know, with brown skin, you know. And and when he opened the door and I looked, and he looked, and he scanned the room, and he's seeing me, right? And I guess he was happy to see another brown face like himself, right, at the same time. And he looked at me, and he kind of stared at me for a moment, like, you know. And I guess, and the reason why he told me this, because as soon as I came in the room, I seen your name. I didn't have to sleep on it. I didn't have to have your sema. I seen your name. I seen your spirit name. And when that time was to give me my name through it was a graduation day of our finishing our treatment. Um, and he said to the four directions, Wapshka Bijikikwe. And
Okay.
Wapshka Bijikikwe. So that's the white buffalo woman.
Oh,
Yeah. And he told me to research her. And my sponsor, Janice, who I asked to be my midday sponsor from Wasoxing, Janice Saint Germain,
yeah.
she gave me a book about the prophecy of the white buffalo woman.
Yes.
And of course I Googled it, and I heard stories from elders, you know, and they said that she brought the bundle to the people who were suffering, who were looking for that good life. And without even knowing it, without even knowing that, like that came later. And someone seen me on my property with a long skirt, a ceremonial skirt, and my hair was blowing in the wind, I guess. That's what they said. And sooner or later, after years and years, I donated half my property there because I have an acre of land, and I donated it to the Georgian Bay Native Women's Association to use. And that's where they have moon ceremonies, naming ceremonies, children's camps. There was a shaking tent ceremony here. They grow the medicines here, a garden, beautiful garden for the people to, plant vegetables, and it just goes on and on and on and on. And on this side in the backyard is a beautiful Medodo swanning, a sweat lodge.
Really?
So there's a sweat lodge there out in the back of my property here. And I don't conduct ceremonies. I don't have that, I'm not up to that par.
Yeah.
I don't know the full language of that yet, but I see that coming because John Rice passed me tobacco a couple years ago, and he had a dream, and he said, and I still have that tobacco. And he said, I seen you conducting sweat lodge ceremonies. And I went, again, when, taken away, like taken away. And so for the past 10 years, we've been doing sweat lodge ceremonies for the Red Road participants. So Hector does this for our Red Road participants. And every time in the 7th or after they do their pictures after the Southern Direction, we have a sweat lodge for them. So they all gather at my house, and my house is open, and my grandchildren just say are we having a sweat again tonight? When the spaghetti's on the pot on the stove, because we cook spaghetti, because so it feed everybody, right? Because we feed and everybody, and we have the stories of the little water boy teachings in my living room and the sweat lodge teachings in my living room. They said I should call it the Santa Ma Lodge or something, because we do everything here ceremonial. And yeah, so and of course we had to put hold on it of the sweat lodges because of COVID. But we have a beautiful, beautiful Medodo swanning at the back there, and the wood is provided, and all that, everything's provided. It's all taken care of. And how everything was taken care of here, because there was a vision. Mm-hmm. And when you have a vision, things come together. Like I can tell you now, we're story long, but it's not part of it. But how that garden came together, where people just, because we had to get blueprints and all that stuff to have a big pavilion, and an architect to design the whatever, right? And that all happened in one day. The architect said, here's your blueprints. This is the vision. You owe me nothing, at the town office in Perkinsfield. Wow. And they had it that day, and then the cement trucks came here, and those things that dig in there. Yes, they dug all the poles and the cement for nothing. And the cement truck coming down the road, he heard, this has a vision, and he poured cement for that 20 by 20 pavilion. Wow. It all came together like that. It's just a beautiful.
That's so moving. And so I appreciate that I'm here having this conversation with you, because it's equally validating for me, because I do some crazy stuff. And I do it because I hear I'm doing that. I need to go down a path, and I don't always trust it. But I know, and I can feel that exact description of what you're saying when you get there, and and how things so beautifully unfold, because there's this vision that happens, and there's that magic in the unknowing, of just holding that seed and saying, okay, I choose a better life. I choose to be of service. I choose to be firmly present in who I am in whatever way that looks like. And so, for the longest time, I would say I'm just losing my mind, but I wasn't. And I'm not, because that's just listening. That's just being connected. That's just here. And how beautiful is it that you have this space, this property, this program, this deep, deep connection and gift to be that white buffalo woman, to be able to hold out her arms and say, you're home, right? You're home.
Yeah.
Wherever, whatever, you're home. And that is so authentically beautiful and profound and such a gift. And even through all of the pain that you could have possibly went through and all of that, here you are. And that's what strengthens that, right? That's what is the road to our future. And so that's why, even in Wiiji make a mainstream program that will share, teach, acknowledge, unlearn, and hold space. Okay, so I go down a road, and I end up in a completely different road. And I took a lot of punches, so to speak, along the way. And there was a lot of times where I was like, is this really worth it? Did I sign up for this? But knowing full well that, my pivotal moment in this program was in the summertime, and saying, okay, I'm stripping all this away and I am going back to what's important. My medicines, my connection, and opening and listening. And I heard what I needed to do, and I put that in place. And again, I was questioned. But I love also about your program is that, yes, the medicine wheel is not our teaching, but the medicine wheel has components of our teaching woven inside of it. It is a connection tool for the two worlds to identify. Is it right that it's that way? No. I mean, it is tokenization. It is, all those things. But how do we see past that? Because that was the bridge. That was the bridge that allowed us the space to open these conversations, to open your conversations to Red Road and go deeper and stronger and impact so many people. That was the bridge for me to build Ouija Nokiwag on, that went deeper and stronger and building awareness on a completely other side that went, I had no idea. And thank you for opening the door to allow us to see, because now we see how deeply important it is to connect on such a completely different level with people, especially Indigenous peoples, because of all of that trauma. All of that trauma that A, some of us know, and B and C, most of us have no idea the depths of it, right? It's coming, it's still coming, it's part of that journey, it's part of getting that together, but of recognizing and seeing that it takes these two pieces to be here, right? So when we wrapped our first few weeks, and I heard immediately, okay, we have to have conversations, because that was the beauty that came out of the program. All of a sudden, I was moved every week by Indigenous people and non-Indigenous people showing up, and Indigenous people saying, I don't want to teach you about this. I don't want to tell you anymore. You're not listening because we're tired, right? And Indigenous or non-Indigenous people showing up and saying, I hear you and I understand, but I have to learn so that I can unlearn. And the magic of that came, that ebb and flow, there was not great parts in it, but you as a facilitator know that sometimes you just have to hold the space for that to happen. And there is so much beauty and the conversations that came out of it. And so, walking away from those programs, those participants would write back and say, thank you for bringing it home to me. Thank you for allowing those stories to come up, for people to share their experience, for, me to say, yeah, I walked into a hospital and I was literally, criticized, and made small at a point where I was at my smallest. That's just an everyday story. We know that our people walk into organizations and they're automatically targeted or profiled, and things are assumed. That there's no place and space for that in this world. We're all peoples, right? And so allowing us, and not allowing in that way, but Mama Way has created this container and this portal to allow all these voices of strength and wisdom and unity to rise and change this dynamic. And I know that that's why I'm proud and why I show up and do these extra things, because they're valuable, right? These conversations. You and I came in here this morning and it was like, okay, we're going to go through a little bit of a script, but in that, who you are, what you're doing, and what you do for, in community. But this is morphed into a completely different, authentic, beautiful experience that someone and many people will want to hear out there and need to hear, right? So that's what the Voices of Change is about, because clearly, and I knew none of this about you, clearly you have been a voice of change from that moment 13 years ago when you were faced with the back end of a world that was no longer working, and you found the courage and strength to step forward into something that you didn't even know. That is power in a beautiful, beautiful way. So I thank you for that, Cassie, and I thank you for sharing it. It's the best way to start my day on a Tuesday morning, is having stories like this. So from your vantage point, from where you are right now, what is important for mainstream organization to hear and know in their dealings with helping Indigenous people to have a safer space to unpack, to unload, to connect with community? I know we talked about, some ceremonies are sacred, but there's also some ceremonies and stories that we can share. And there's importance in that, right? When we share these with you, we're not sharing them with our pale skin brothers and sisters to take away and run with. However, it's a tool in their toolbox, right? That they can say, I had the opportunity to sit on with Kathy and Steve in the Red Road program. And I learned this from that takeaway. And I would love to be able to share that experience with you. Are you willing? And asking those people sitting in front of them, are you willing? And that's an opening of a door, right? Yeah. It's an opening of a door of a collaboration between two worlds for all peoples. And that's so important. But what do you see, or what do you need to, what advice would you give people right now in mainstream? What do we need to see more of?
And I know this works. How we have, because I've planned so many gatherings for our traditional teachers and our elders and our knowledge keepers to share the teachings at huge events. I've been doing that for a very long time, and it's one of my compassions. Like I love, if there's money available, I can draw, somebody in, and then people will come, because like Jim Jumon. And there's a lot of people that we use to share that those teachings. But one event, I'll tell you which worked. Hold on one second.
Yep.
So we had the creation story. And I sit on a lot of committees and board committees with my other job when I worked with the Women's Association. I was a program coordinator / manager. So I was getting pretty burnt out, plus doing Red Road in the evenings. And so I seen what was, at the table where there was two worlds that are trying to connect. But when you sit in the rooms and you see that, that linear thinking, and they need to see evidence or facts, to believe, right? And of course, we sit back and we go, well, go to a ceremony and just open up, try real hard just to open up. And we're trying to say it really kindly, just, don't close your mind to, just connect with all creation, with all our relatives, connect with the flower on the ground or the ground, whatever, right? We're trying to make it like details so they can just like, oh, okay. Yeah. So, but this particular gathering for a creation story, and there was about 300 people that held space at this gathering with Jim Dumont teaching sharing the creation story. And people there, you could hear a pin drop. I swear, you can hear a pin drop because we're all intuitively like listening, in tune to him of what he's going to share every word, because he's just full of knowledge, full of wisdom. And so this one particular man called me a week later. This is a couple of years ago. And he said, I was very moved by all the teachings that I've heard. And it was a 4 session teaching also. And I just need to give back. I need to give back. And he's a lawyer. And he works with justice with the youth. There's a program in Midland. I can't think of the name of it right now because it's like I'm going blank. And he wanted to make something change and bring our two worlds together. And it worked, and it was like a rippling effect where, at the high school in Midland, where I brought Gertie Bokash, who did a cultural, how she does that cultural, I can't even think.
Cultural safety or cultural?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And
Yep.
she shares her knowledge in that, right? Yep. So we did this for 55 teachers in the MSS school, so that they could understand of our youth.
Yeah.
And the so that's so yeah. So that's where there was success starting to happen with our children, and we just keep until we go blue in the face, just hear our stories, hear our traditions, hear our teachings, our ceremonies, because we could tell them across the table and they just won't get it, right? So I just say, share, and they do. That's why we open it to the non-native, to mainstream organizations, our teachings on Zoom. Like, you can still get something from Zoom. You can capture something. So
yeah. And that's the beautiful work that needs to be done, because what I hear on the other side of the mainstream organizations that come into the Wijinokiwag program, they want to know, but again, we're unlearning and we're unpacking on both sides, right? Because for the longest time, I'm not sharing, I'm not going to teach, and I'm not going to tell you my stories, because that's one more thing that you're going to take from me, right? Yeah. So and that is part of the Indigenous story, that we, as we connect and come back and heal, that we start to go, okay, well, wait a minute, we have to hear, we have to share this. And I learned that so quickly, 4 years ago. I just lost my sister. I had just come out of recovery from being 8 years totally overwhelmed by PTSD and anxiety and panic that I couldn't even leave my home. And then I lost her and I was lost. I thought, how do I do this? But knew full well that I had a whole group of people that were looking at me to say, how do we make it through this? And I got a call from the town who had recognized the work that I was doing in the community. And at that point in time, I was not actually, I'm going to say identifying, but that's not what I meant, because in my heart, I knew that I was Indigenous. I just didn't have the pieces and I didn't want to show up and not be authentic in what I was doing. But there was inner knowings that I had put to my life this whole time, that I just knew that that's what I had to do. And so what I started to do was trust that when I was called to share those, I would share those. I was met with, a lot of people saying, well, wait a minute, where did you learn that? Right. And so you go through this journey as you're connecting as well too. Well, where did you learn that from? How did you learn that? Right. And you explain, well, I can't really say where I learned it from, because it was this thing that came out of me and it's something that just felt right for me to use. And so I used it. Right. And then I started to deepen and learn. I've lived in Georgian Bay all my life. I've not been a part of my community. My grandmother was removed and it was done and everything was lost. I knew that I had family there, but that was it. I didn't even have my status until 5 years ago. And because I didn't feel worthy, I didn't feel enough to be able to do that. And I know now that that's part of the broken wheel that, had created that. But just being here in this lost space, and a friend of mine, so the town had called me and said, Heather, would you come and do just a community circle of healing? Because and healing not in the way that I'm a healer, but healing in the way that I was just, and I've always been gifted with the ability to hold space, right? So hold space and just share love, because that's all I got. And allow people, give people the opportunity to be heard. So we did that in community, and that got the attention of other people that said, hey, listen, can you come and be part of Orange Shirt Day? And I went and I was part of Orange Shirt Day, and I was able to be in that place and again evolve, right, and unpack more things. I met Jill, who said, hey, you need to come and we're doing this movie presentation of an Indigenous film. And I walked in and I witnessed my first sacred pipe ceremony with, which was unbelievable, because that you don't have that here. We don't have that here, right? And I met Jeff Monet, and I walked up to him and I mean, I was snot crying the whole time through this video. I could barely watch the video and thinking, what is going on with me? I don't, like what you said, I don't understand any of this, but this emotion that's coming up. And he kept watching me, and I was trying to contain myself and keep my shit together. No, were the words. And we came down the stairs and I walked up to him and I looked at him, and I might get emotional, and he grabbed my arm, and I just looked at him and he said, it's okay, you're coming home. And I just went, and it was in that moment that I realized that he was one of my people, and who I lean into, like he is one of my people. But in that moment, I went there, and then with my connection to Jill said, have you heard about feather carriers? And I met John. John had the same impact. And it was like the domino effect that happened. And then I met John, and then I met Tiffany. And then I was in this program, and she was like, there's a new posting coming up and you would be really good at that. and I was introduced to Mama Way. And then here I am, right? And like I look here today and I go, that world. And the one thing that I did, Kathy, is what you spoke to so beautifully in the beginning was that I remember sitting after, Sarah sifting through all of those things and looking up at Creator and saying, man, this is one crazy way to teach a girl a whole lot of lessons. um, and I question whether I can do this. But I'm going to, as we talked about earlier, I'm going to throw down all of my reservations and I'm going to surrender. And I learned how to surrender for the first time in 35 years. And it was hard. It was so hard. Vulnerability is hard. But, I speak to this in program and I say, okay, everybody, I'm like fully, Sarah's been gone now for 5 years and it was another layer of vulnerability that I had to learn. But I look at the 8 years prior to that I was in the trenches and I had no other option but to be vulnerable, right? And to surrender. And look at where it's got me. Look at where I am, right? I sit here today, look at this experience that we've had. Look at the experience that I continue to have in this place where I can show up authentically and say, yep, okay, Creator has a plan. And that's so important for people to understand, for all peoples to understand that there is a plan if we're ready to listen and we're willing to do the work to step through all of the stuff and the noise that's happening. Because it's important. And I thank you for sharing that here today with me and invoking that in me and reminding me of all of the little roads that have me here. I'm so very happy and blessed. I know we've gone a few minutes over here to be able to watch as all of this work that we're doing grows. I so want to come to your property at some point in time, whenever I can, to take in all of the beauty and the awe and the energy that I'm sure is there. And I just want to thank you for all of the work that you do and the leadership and the essence of being authentically who you are, because that empowers a lot of people to do a lot of things.
Oh.
One word. I always end with this. If you had one word to gift out there today for all peoples to lean into, what would that word be?
Sacredness.
Thank you. And that is beautiful. And sacredness in all that everyone is what I envision that when you say that word. So, Kathy, have a blessed day. And I think I brought this up to you. I would love for you to come to one of our future community circles and share that story and just your energy and these conversations to help grow this bundle. Was that something that you might be able to do?
Absolutely. Yes.
Awesome. We'll be in touch. We'll figure that out. To everyone out there, thank you for joining us here today. And till next time, Bama P. Kathy, thank you so much.
Bama P.
Bye-bye.